Take a look at what's been grabbing headlines around the world. Florence joins us again. Much focus on those Iranian elections this morning.
That's right. Let's start in Iran with the Tehran Times, which is actually an English language paper that is essentially in line with the Ayatollah. It's the voice of the Islamic Revolution. You can see here they're focusing on Iran, 5 power factors. Iran is at the crossroads of geopolitical issues. It's a regional demographic giant, a military power full of energy resources, and a soft scientific power. Why this article? Well, essentially, Tehran Times is focusing on the fact that the results of today's elections will, of course, be important for Iran, but also for the region in general.
What about those papers outside of Iran? Apparently, they're critical of the fact that several candidates advocating reform have been barred from standing.
That's right. Let's take a look at the Washington Post today that talks about this. Only a limited number of moderates and reformers are on the ballots today. Analysts say the election is unlikely to foreshadow a history-making moment of change in Iran. And if we take a look at L'Orient Le Jour, that's a Lebanese paper, very much the same analysis. You can see that the title here is "In Iran, Everything Must Change so that Nothing Changes." And it's a very interesting analysis piece that points out that it's not in the interest of the president, Hassan Rouhani, who's seen as being a little bit more moderate, a little bit more open. And it's not in the interest of Ayatollah Khamenei, who's seen as being very conservative. It's not in their interest for these elections to swing in a direction that's either too conservative or too moderate. And why is that? Well, according to this article, what they really want is for the status quo to maintain, because for now they managed to figure out a way of having some sort of a fragile political balance, and so that's why they hope these elections actually won't really change that much.
Okay, let's move on to another top story in the press this morning, the spat between Greece and Austria over the migrant crisis.
That's right. Let's take a look, first of all, at the Greek press. Katamarani focuses on the spat between Greece and Austria. So Wednesday, Austria hosted a meeting with Balkan states on the migrant crisis and didn't invite Greece. Not only that, the nations at the meeting agreed to step up restrictions, including closing borders, so effectively stranding thousands of migrants in Greece. Now, Athens hit back by essentially recalling its ambassador from Austria, well, its ambassador to Austria, rather, and also it denounced what it called a diplomacy that has roots in the 19th century. So that's the Greek point of view. Let's take a look at the Austrian point of view. I pulled out a piece in Die Press, which actually defends Austria and the Balkan countries, says it's useful to give a signal that not all refugees are welcome. The EU cannot let the influx of migrants go unchecked, just like it did last year. According to Die Press, Austria, Sweden, and Germany are almost at a cracking point. That being said, the EU can't leave Greece alone. And so the headline here says Greece needs both support and pressure, though, because it needs pressure to essentially be encouraged to control its exterior border of the EU.
The lack of unity between member states on how to deal with this crisis has been the focus of criticism for some other papers.
That's right. Let's take a look at the front page of Le Figaro, the French paper, which says that as the influx of migrants intensifies, Europe is disintegrating. The EU is failing, according to Le Figaro. And in the meantime, the flow of migrants continues. Lots of papers are focusing on the figures, which are really incredible. 100,000, over 100,000 migrants have already arrived in Europe since the beginning of the year. The Guardian, the British paper, in its editorial, disagrees somewhat and says, look, it's not really the EU that's the problem, it's actually the individual EU countries. Europe knows what needs to be done. There is a script, but it's not being implemented. And so you can see here the Guardian saying, stop arguing and fix the situation. I guess a message to each individual EU country.
Staying in Europe, the Italian Senate has voted on that crucial bill on civil unions for same-sex couples.
That's right. It's really the big story in the Italian press today. Let's take a look at La Repubblica, first of all. It takes a look at what actually is in this law. It's point by point. You can see this union civili. Italy has finally come in line with other Western democracies. You can really get all the